You ever wish like you had a checklist of all the things you need to think about as you're planning a women's retreat? This video is going to give you that. Planning a women's retreat is one of the most exciting, fulfilling things that you can do. I know this because I've done many of them. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the things that you can do to make sure that you have a successful retreat that people are talking about for years to come. The first thing that you want to think about is, who is your audience? Who are these women that are going to be coming to your retreat? What do they need? What do they want? What do they bring to the table? So once you have a sense of who they are, what they need and want, what's the outcome that you want from your retreat? What do you want them to walk away with? The second thing to think about is how you're going to deliver those outcomes. What's the format? Do you want to do breakout sessions, paired up shares, triads, dyads? Bring in an expert. You can bring someone in to run an experience, or you can do yoga. You can do all sorts of activities. Go outside. Some of the activities that we've done in our retreats that have been the most beneficial and the people remember the most are things like, we took a hike and everybody had to stay present in the moment and not think about the future or the past. We've held cooking competitions. We've done talent shows. We've done improv skits. We've brought in chiropractors and breathwork professionals, hypnotists, like all sorts of, there's such a universe of cool things that you can bring together to have people have an amazing experience. Another thing to think about is, what are you going to charge, right? If you're going to bring in all these amazing experiences, that presumably costs money. And so you want to have a profit at the end of it. So where's your profit going to come from? Is it from the enrollment fees and the registration fees? Or could you potentially have sponsors that want to reach this audience of women that you're pulling together for a retreat? So look at the revenue streams and make sure that you're maximizing all the revenue streams without compromising the value of the event. Another thing to think about is your event logistics. Where are you going to host this event? What are you going to do for food? A lot of times people assume that in a retreat you have to provide all the meals, when actually some of the best retreats that I've been to and held is where they let us go for lunch and they let us do our own thing, or they gave us a nice long lunch break. I'll never forget this one retreat I went to. I was given a 3-hour lunch break and I was so disappointed at first. I'm like, what am I going to do in 3 hours? But I was in La Jolla, California, and guess what? I ended up going to the beach after having been landlocked for several months. So think about what cool things you can do that maybe don't require you to provide the experience. Maybe someone else can provide the experience, or you can give people ideas and let them go on their own. It's another thing to think about. People always forget you need downtime to integrate a really big experience. So if you're doing deep inner work in your retreat, it's good to have some space to let people really let that transformation sink in. One of the other great things about a retreat is that it fosters community. But a lot of people forget that that's part of the magic of a retreat and forget to take advantage of it, right? It's almost like an afterthought. Oh yeah, people are going to be gathering. But what can you do to foster community, to really create those relationships? For example, one of the things we once did in one of our retreats was we had a cooking competition, like a TV show, where we gave people an envelope as a team. We created teams. We gave them an envelope with $50 in it and told them that they had to create a dessert, a main dish, an appetizer, or something like that. They had only this money that they could use, and they had to figure it all out and get it done within 2 hours. Oh my gosh, you should have seen the way these people bonded and connected doing this game, this activity, this competition. So think about ways that you can foster community and create those stronger connections between people. Another really cool touch for a retreat is gifts. Whether you give gifts before people arrive, send them care packages, or when they arrive, a gift basket or a box, and when they leave to commemorate the experience. Sometimes with events, retreats, especially business ones and things like that, people forget how important it is to move your body. So think about, how can you incorporate some physiological movement into your retreat? Maybe having a yoga session in the morning, or a stretch session throughout the day, or getting outside and doing dancing or cartwheels, right? Get the body moving. Of course, you have to think about logistics for your event. Highly recommend laying out an agenda and at the same time being flexible, because things come up and things happen in these types of fluid environments. I like to think about it as a balance between structure and form and clarity and certainty, and unknown, uncertainty, mystery, and just going with it. Some of the best retreats I've ever had or I've ever been to are ones where the leader just threw the agenda out the window and said, all right, this is what we're doing next. So that brings me to another really important point, which is your pre-frame. At the beginning of the retreat is where you get to set the tone of the retreat. You get to set the rules of engagement. And so you might want to set a rule like, hey, we've got a structure, we've got an agenda, and we're going to flow. We're going to also pay attention to what your needs are. And this is going to be a dynamic retreat where it's not going to be all perfect on paper. So things like that are really important to bring up at the beginning to set the expectations. So your pre-frame is something that, well, at least for me, what I do is I always write out a really, really strong pre-frame and then have an idea for the rest of the retreat, but I don't over prepare it either. The pre-frame is where I leave myself room to be flexible. Obviously, food is something to be considered if you're putting together a retreat. So think about food allergies, food preferences, having a wide variety of things. You know, as someone who personally, I don't eat gluten, don't eat dairy, I eat really healthy, it's kind of annoying to come to an event, especially if I've stated what my preferences are, and then the only option I have for dessert, for example, is a plate of berries or a plate of pineapple, right? Or something boring like that. Like really honoring people's food preferences goes a long way to helping them feel energized and energy rich. And on that same token, making sure that you're feeding people healthy food that's going to support their participation rather than making them feel heavy or tired. There are so many other things that you can do for a retreat, but I think I've laid out some of the most important ones. But if you want to make sure you don't miss anything at all, feel free to go to retreatstorichesroadmap.com and download my free roadmap. It's got 7 basic steps and all the sub-steps for how to plan and execute an excellent and profitable retreat. retreatstorichesroadmap.com. Enjoy.